Green arrow alpha.
Good evening. It's 6:01 p.m. on Thursday, October 17, 2024. This is the Plan Commission of the City of Franklin. Mr. Martinez, would you please take the roll?
Mayor Nelson,
Here.
Commissioner Shago is excused, Commissioner Haley,
Here.
City Engineer Paulus,
Here.
Alderman Day,
Here.
Commissioner Leon,
Here.
Commissioner Specht is excused.
Excellent. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we'll say this once tonight. Am I voting tonight, sir?
To affect the result, yes.
Thank you. To affect the results, we'll say it once so we're not repeating it all the way through this.
Only a quorum present.
Good. Item B, approval of the minutes, approval of the regular meeting minutes of October 3rd, 2024. Is there a motion?
Move to pass.
Second.
First and a second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. C, we're moving to the public hearing business matters. So we've got this one first is by Mr. Martinez. I can read the intro. Black Duck Partners Special Use request to allow for a special use for a physical fitness facility under SIC Code 7991, physical fitness facilities within Planned Development District 16, Franklin Center, for property located at 7199 South 76th Street, tax key number 755-1002-000. Mr. Martinez.
Good evening, thank you. This is a special use application because the property is located in Planned Development District number 16. Is the development by Rawson and Loomis. And in this district, the ordinance requires that this type of use requires a special use permit. It is a physical fitness facilities, a gym, Planet Fitness gym. The applicant is not proposing any exterior improvements other than a sign that will require a separate permit. And the applicant is proposing a 24/7 hours of operation. Staff has no objections to the request and is recommending approval. And there's also a public hearing for this item.
Correct. Is the applicant here? Good evening, sir. Would you mind having a seat right at the big table? Yes. And this will come in play later if there's any questions when we ask you, the applicant. So just take this microphone right there and keep it real close to you, like right up in front. And then, you're real close, like, real close.
Okay.
And just state your name and business address for the record. We'll just get out of that.
My name is Preston Salt. I'm development manager for Black Duck Partners. The address is 55 Jewelers Park Drive, Suite 500 in Neenah, Wisconsin, 54956. So is our office address.
Excellent. So at this point, looking at the list here, regular, are you ready to do your thing?
Notice of public hearing, City of Franklin Plan Commission, a meeting on Thursday, October 17, 2024 at 6 p.m. at the Common Council Chambers at Franklin City Hall, 9229 West Loomis Road, Franklin, Wisconsin, 53132. The applicant is Black Duck Partners. Subject property is located at 7199 South 76th Street. The proposal is a special use permit request to allow for a physical fitness facility in Planned Development District number 16, Franklin Center. PDD 16 utilize the B3 Community Business District for its permitted, special, and prohibited uses. Physical fitness facilities under a standard industrial classification title number 7991 require a special use permit in the B3 per the Unified Development Ordinance, Table 15.30603. These public hearings being held pursuant to the requirements and standards of Section 15.30701, General Standards for Special Uses, and 15.90103, Applications for a Special Use Permit of the City of Franklin Unified Development Ordinance. A map showing the property affected for legal description and application materials are available for review and may be obtained at the Department of City Development at Franklin City Hall. The public is invited to attend the public hearing and to provide input. The proposed draft form resolution is subject to revisions following public hearing and the further consideration by the Plan Commission and the City of Franklin Common Council.
Thank you. So at this time, I'd like to open up the public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak on this, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, close the public hearing. Move on to questions from the commission. Anybody have any questions at this point? Okay, I have a comment. Wonderful. This looks to be a great addition to our city, and I welcome you, and I hope everything goes well. Is there a motion, Mr. Martinez?
A motion to recommend approval of a resolution imposing conditions and restrictions for the approval of a special use for a physical fitness facility located at 7199 South 76th Street, Black Dot Partners applicant.
So moved.
Second.
First and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. Welcome. This fun? Number 2, I'll read the intro. That might went that smooth. You guys have to have fun. This is a great time. Number C is in Charles 2, Mayville, Wisconsin, Comprehensive Master Plan Amendment and Rezoning. Request to amend the future land use map of the City of Franklin, 2025 Comprehensive Master Plan from Business Park to Residential Use, and the Unified Development Ordinance zoning map from R2 Estate Single Family Residence District to R6 Suburban Single Family Residence District for property located at 9720 South 112th Street, tax key number 892-9998-000. Mr. Martinez.
Thank you. This is the subject property located in 112th Street. It's just east of the Ryan Meadows subdivision, and it's currently zone R2. So with the current zoning, basically the yield of the site will be around 17 and 18 lots, but the applicant is proposing 29 lots. According to the applicant, the 17 lots, it's not economically feasible. So in that case, they're requesting the rezoning from R2 to R6, that will for a higher density and smaller lots. And according to the state statutes, all rezoning ordinance needs to be consistent with the comprehensive master plan. So the applicant is also requesting an amendment to the comprehensive master plan from business park, that is the designation, to residential.
Is the applicant here? If the applicant would just please have a seat again.
Okay.
Good evening and welcome. Just have a seat, and we'll do the same thing with the other gentleman. Just state your name and business address for the record, please, but go real close.
This one? It's Robert Villarreal. The business address is 9720 112th Street.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Yep. So this is the future land use map of the comprehensive plan. We can see the site here. Just would like to mention that this is the Ryan Meadows subdivision that was has a previous designation as business park shown here, but that was amended to be residential. And that's what the applicant is proposing, from business park to residential. Sorry. Okay. This is another view of the site here. Just would like to mention that the property to the south of the subject site has some wetlands areas and is also planned for park purposes, and is owned by the City of Franklin. So we can see that this will affect the sign. We can see in the next, we go to the next slide here. So as I was explaining, these properties planned for parks and had wetlands here, and what the applicant is proposing is kind of this street here and has this connection. So this will allow for a future connection to the park without the need of impacting the wetlands that are located here. That's like a side comment. However, this design is not subject to decision tonight. What is for decision tonight is only the rezoning from the R2 and R6 and the change of the designation of the comprehensive plan. if that is approved, then the applicant will go to the next step and submit for the preliminary plat that is being shown here. Okay, let me go back. Hello. Okay. Another comments with regards to the policies of the cities. With the comprehensive plan also has identified the kind of environmental linkages that we can see in orange. This kind of to allow for like a wildlife corridors that have been identified. So we can see one here at the east of the site. So if the applicant can move forward with the plat, then staff will recommend. Let me go back here. That this connection here.
Mr. Martinez, not to publicly shame you, but if you want to use something with a brighter light to show more attention, you can use this because these are wonderful. Because I don't know, sometimes I don't pick up what you're laying down, but I trust you. I don't need collateral here, but
So
there you go.
see, this area here is identifying environmental linkages and has a wetlands area. So staff is not recommending that the applicant will improve this at the time of the development, but have this area as an easement if that is required for a future connection to this property, which is landlocked. Okay. As you can see in the report, we received a comment from the fire department that kind of this area of the city is underserved. So that's why staff recommends denial of the application, because we will not support an application that will increase the density if the area is underserved. However, under the current zoning, the R2, the applicant has the right to develop residential. That's a permitted use, but with a lower number of units. So the difference is approximately 10 to 12 lots. So that's the difference. That's what the applicant is requesting to increase. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, I guess we'll hit that after the hearing.
And have a public hearing for the rezoning. Notice of public hearing, City of Franklin Plan Commission, meeting on Thursday, October 17, and the council chambers, Franklin City Hall, 9229 West Loomis Road. The applicant is Robert Villarreal, Mayville, Wisconsin, LLC, subject property located at 9720 South 112th Street. The proposal is an ordinance to amend the Unified Development Ordinance zoning map to rezone a parcel located at 9720 South 112 from R2 State Single Family Residence District to R6 Suburban Single Family Residence District. This public is being held pursuant to the requirements of Section 6223(7)(d)(2) of the Wisconsin Statutes and Division 590200 of the City of Franklin Unified Development Ordinance. A map showing the property affected for legal description and the application materials are available at the Department of City Development at Franklin City Hall. The public is invited to attend the public hearing and to provide input. The proposed amendment is subject to revisions following public hearing and the further consideration by the Plan Commission and the City of Franklin Common Council.
Thank you. So we will open the public hearing now at 6:16 p.m. Anybody wishing to speak on this, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. It is now open at 6:16 p.m. Oh, good evening and welcome.
Patrick Hammer, address 970 South 112th Street, property directly of this one. We've lived there since 2017, and things that we've noticed since Ryan Meadows has been built, 112th Street is not adequate for the current use. There's increased vehicle traffic, and now with the development there, we have vehicles going both ways. There's no paved shoulder. People walking on the street, riding bikes on the street. 29 more lots would further increase people on 12th Street, plus if widened and added paved
Shoulder.
shoulder or sidewalk. I don't have any opposition to changing the master plan to residential. I think everyone living on 112th Street would rather see houses there than a business park. Additionally, 30 people, I believe, living in this part of Franklin moved there because it was, and there weren't quarter acre. Everyone, the vast majority of lots around there, with the exception of Rhine Meadows, 3, and putting a lot of quarter acre lots really reduces the open space in the country. And right now is R2. I don't think anyone there would be happy about having it R2 at 40,000 square foot lots. I think a lot of people living there prefer it be quartered and developed that way. But it is permitted obviously as R2, so we don't object. Other comment I have is with zoning. We have an easement, a 50-foot wide easement access that goes from 112th Street along the existing gravel driveway where we bought property to our property, which goes along the northern part of this. We were never contacted by the applicant about moving the easement. We were taken, knock on our door to discuss it before a plat was drawn. Right now, the 50-foot wide easement, it's a purplish color shaded there, goes right over the top. I think it's lots 4, 5, 6, and 7 there. The southern easement there is honestly useless. That goes to lands. So you'd have to pay for gravel or whatever, which we also want. So we obviously would have liked to have been contacted. Say, thinking about doing this, what do you think? Instead of getting it and back. So,
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak on this time? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing at 6:19 p.m. Mr. Leon.
Thank you, Mayor. I did reach out to Chief Mayer from Franklin's Fire Department to discuss the comments that the FD had, provide a little bit more context. So the chief is here, and if it's okay with the chair, I'd like him to just kind of discuss on what the impact of developments would mean to services, emergency services in the city, and planning for that and resources needed.
Thank you, Mr. Leon. We'll have the chief come up to the main table. Chief, good evening and welcome, and please share your thoughts. It's on.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor and the commissioners. I'll try to keep this very brief, and I'll start off with saying that the fire department, the comments that we added are ones that we frequently add to development throughout the city, because right now our current staffing levels and station locations are behind where we should be compared to national standards for the amount of development in the city. So we're trying to play catch up a little bit. So that's why the comments were added. We are definitely not against development. We just want to be able to provide a quality service not only to the new development, but make sure that the emergency medical services and fire services that we provide to the current residents and businesses isn't diluted from the new development. Currently this year, our call volume is up by 9% with projected over 5,400 calls by the end of the year. Our fire station number 2, which is in the far southern portion of the city on South 60th Street and right near Oakwood Road in the southern portion of the industrial park. It's staffed with only 2 personnel 76% of the time. So that's our biggest concern with growth, especially in the southern portion of the city, is that we would like to increase our staffing there up to 4 personnel at all times to match what our other 2 northern stations are staffed with. When you look at other developments that have come in recently, we've had Cape Crossing on Ryan Road with 130 single family, The Seasons multifamily apartment development on 27th Street added 250 multifamily. Those are both to the southern portion of the city. And then we've also had New Perspective Senior Living, Velo Village, Saputo Cheese, a lot of development over the past few years and even the past decade. So we're just trying to play catch up. Some of the concerns with the southern end of the community is if we do get really busy where all 3 of our fire stations are committed at one time, which happens several times per week, although we do have shared service and mutual aid agreements, the departments that we mainly work with and rely on that are also career fully staffed departments to provide a very quick response time, most of those are at the northern boundaries, northern and eastern boundaries, which would be Oak Creek, Greenfield, Greendale, Milwaukee, Hales Corners, and not the southern part of the city where we border the town of Raymond and the city of Muskego that both have on-call volunteer type fire departments. So the concern is if all 3 of our stations would be busy, that southern portion of the community is very difficult to reach in a timely manner. So that's just kind of a high level overview. Again, we are, fire department is not against development. We just need to grow with the community and our staffing levels to kind of put that at a higher priority of kind of getting those up to meet the national standards. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Chief. And I know the answer to this, but I'll ask you. So the way to add staffing to the fire department, it has to go to the voters, correct, when you want to add? Or if not, could you explain the way that we add staffing and what that means in terms of taxpayers' impact?
Sure. So one way is direct, increase of the tax levy, so to speak, to add personnel, which we were able to, because of some, let me back up. We were able to increase our daily staffing because of some agreements with the firefighters union, limiting the amount of time that they have off, as well as using our tax levy increase in the city. We were able to add 3 personnel in the years 2022, 2023. But again, that's going to tax levy. The other avenue I think that you're referring to is a referendum. Another method that we've looked at is a federal grant, which we did apply for this year, but we just recently learned that we were not granted or not funded for a SAFER grant to add 6 personnel. So, the other option too is we are exploring, and we've the city has looked at decades on consolidation potentially with some of our neighbors to pool resources, because we are definitely not the only fire department that's faced with these issues. So there's a lot of different avenues that we're looking at with city staff and with the administration on how we can amp up those services.
Thanks, Chief. Based on current projected growth over whatever period you look at normally, how many more firefighters do you think the city needs?
Get ready for this.
Short-term goal would be 6. Long-term goal would be 9.
And to make sure I understand, that's to cover 3 shifts?
That is correct. So we are just like the police department, 24-hour a day, 365-day per year operation. In order to have 1 paramedic firefighter on duty at all times, we need 3 people with 3 rotating shifts.
Great, thank you. That's the questions I have for Chief. I'll have some questions later for the applicant.
Alderwoman Day.
I can defer to Commissioner Leon if he has additional questions. Mine are more the applicant, not Chief Mayor.
Mine also are for the applicant, so if anyone else has questions for the chief.
I don't, Chief, and I think I heard that speech before in the last budget meeting. I don't know, maybe I dreamt it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just
So,
saying,
anyway, I did dream it, and well done again. And the more times I hear it, the more convincing you get. And it is a big ask for taxpayers, as we've talked about that. And it's a balance. And I
Right.
understand the concerns. I live in the south end. This is my backyard basically, so I understand it, and I agree with it. But that's a whole nother conversation. So now we're going to shift back to the applicant. Thank you, Chief. And I think
very
for
good.
your penance, you need to stay the entire meeting tonight.
Don't put him through that.
Mr. Leone, you still got the floor.
All right. Thank you, Mayor, and thanks again, Chief. So to the applicant, I have probably 2 or 3 questions here. And a lot of them are built off what Mr. Hammer discussed, and I should disclose that I know Mr. Hammer from Board of Zoning and Building Appeals. We were here meeting last night. First one that Mr. Hammer addressed was that he wasn't contacted by you as the applicant. Did you reach out to any of the neighbors around there about your application to find ways to address their concerns before the public notice went out?
No, sir, I did not. Part of that was that this is just a preliminary, very, very preliminary concept. Oh,
I don't think
apologize.
it's turned on.
Yeah,
No, it's not. You just got to bring it real close.
I just got to bring it real close. Yeah, this is a very preliminary drawing, so it's this is step one. We have 9 or 10 more steps to go. So I apologize to Mr. Hammer for not reaching out. I should have probably done a better job of contacting the neighbors associated with this, especially as he is affected the most on this. So
Okay, and so it's fair to say that if this moves forward, you will reach out to neighbors to hear their concerns and address them to the best of your ability?
absolutely, yes, sir.
Thank you. Another comment Mr. Hammer had was about 112th Street and how it supports that. Actually, this one's probably to the city engineer, but the applicant can probably address it as well, about that road's ability to support the increased single-family homes that's proposed. And if you want, I'll start with the applicant on that. If not, I'd turn to the city engineer or planning.
No, sir, we did not take a look at the excess traffic between 18 single-family homes and 28 single-family homes. We did not take a look at the.
I guess, should we introduce the city engineer for?
Well, thanks, Mr. Leone. I will take I'll take your under your consideration. So what we'd like to do is, since and I'll give a 34-second update. So what we did is we had our opening. We brought forth Grafe. Grafe is an engineering firm that's taken over management and leadership of our engineering department, and Mr. Mike Paulus is here to represent that. And you have 15 more seconds. If you want. You're good. Then go ahead. We'll answer.
You want to go first on our 12th?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So as far as question 112, I honestly don't know. I'll take a closer look at it and see what that road can handle and what kind of traffic volume we're looking at. But first blush, I will answer that.
So when we did the, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
When we did the preliminary discussions with the engineering, we did discuss the water and sewer services associated with this, but the traffic issue was not discussed, and it was never brought up as a concern.
Sure. So then that would just be something that, again, if this moves forward, to get the normal review of the road and its ability to support this many houses. Then probably the biggest one, and I believe Mr. Martinez addressed it in the presentation, but what's the economic feasibility of fewer units?
It's not.
It's not. Okay.
Yeah, it's just absolutely not. In fact, this one is just barely passes the threshold. With the current cost to develop and do the sewer and electric and the road, the cost, as everybody knows, have gone higher. They've gone higher ever since Ryan Meadows was put in by probably 20-25%. So it's absolutely not economically feasible at an R2 density.
Fair to say then 29 units is the lowest, the fewest number that's economically feasible?
It's about 27, 28, so there's a couple preliminary drawings. I think Regulo has the most current one that we have, but we have kicked around probably 1 or 2 less because we also want to include a roadway, or I'm sorry, a bike path associated with connecting the lower proposed park to the Ryan Creek path, which is something I'm a bike enthusiast, so I'm all for it. And I think that was part of one of our preliminary drawings is how do we connect the bike path from the southern end proposed all the way to the other one. And during our last planning meeting with Regulo, we did discuss that in detail.
Thank you, sir. And yeah, I just say, this is roughly the fewest number of units that
That's correct.
It's economically feasible.
Anything lower than 26 or 27, then it will stay the way that it is right now.
Understood. Thank you.
Alderman Day?
Thank you. I'm not going to repeat a lot of the things that have been already brought up. I do have many of the same concerns, however, fire service, the traffic impact. And then My other question, and I will admit that I was not in this position at the time that Ryan Meadows came to be and was voted on, but I do remember some of the conversations about that, and I think some of them were very similar as far as changing the zoning to accommodate more houses. And I do remember there being a little bit of pushback on that for some of the reasons that were brought up this evening by Mr. Hammer, given that when you look at the zoning map around there, outside of Ryan Meadows, everything is, R2. So everything is a bit bigger, a bit more rural feeling. And it's a question of, is this going to look out of place? Even though there is something across the street, it seems like all of a sudden, wham, you're in the middle of a subdivision in the middle of a more suburban / almost urban setting. So concerns about that as well. And then my last question is with these particular lots, and I'll admit I'm not versed on what 13,248 square feet are. What would be the average size of a home on this lot? Are you contemplating if you go with the 26 to 28? What would the average size be?
The average size would be pretty much what's in Ryan Meadows subdivision.
Okay.
So they have anywhere between 3-bed, 2.5 bath, anywhere between 1,500 square foot homes, all the way up to about 2,800 square foot homes within the pad associated with the plat drawing for Ryan Meadows. And we plan to do precisely what they did. They did a fantastic job. It has the houses look phenomenal if you've driven by there. And we want to plan to do basically exactly the same thing.
And then one final question, I forgot. On my map that I'm looking at is number 12. I can't read the numbers on the smaller map on the screen. The cheese that stands alone down there by the cul-de-sac,
Yes.
is there a purpose for having that one in there? Is that just because you need you need the number to hit, it being feasible to do the project? Or is there a reason that fella is all by itself?
It's just the geography of the topography of the land itself. So as Mr. Hammer pointed out, the eastern part of the lot is more wetlands. So, but there's a small rise right there, kind of creating a hill on that one. So we were able to kind of carve out one lot. Plus, we were also able to get a lot of the stormwater. So we do have that designed in there for stormwater retention on the right-hand side.
Okay.
But yeah, it was a matter of geography. There was no purpose for it, no magic number that we had to hit.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Haley? If not, I'll go.
Thank you. Let me start by saying I support development of residential on this property. That said, for the reasons staff has laid out and several others, I can't buy into the increased density. It's just too much in the bag. So I'm concerned about the fact that you haven't reached out to your neighbor and discussed, his permanent access issues, and you got a proposed easement going towards somebody else's property. Those are all issues. The concern about traffic is only going to get worse. So when we look at that, the city is proposing to put a large park in that area. So that access will be off 112th Street. I appreciate the fact that you're trying to accommodate that access from your subdivision, but I'm also going to question whether all those residents want all that traffic coming through their subdivision to get to a large end city park. So all that said and done, I can't support the increase. Bring the project on, but not at 29.
So when I was an alderman, I opposed the development to the west just because of density. I wanted and to support the development as it stood under the zoning, but I was very concerned about those lots literally being 15 feet from one house to the next off of the line. Yeah, that's crazy, and that was my part of to oppose. And we all know we have a very desirable city. People want to come here, build houses, raise families. We're wonderful. We are in a great spot to pretty much guide our own future. And I know 112th Street, living here my entire life. I mean, that's the old farm road, and it's just narrow, and no one ever thought that we would be having these type of discussions, at least, for years to come. And next thing you know, they've come. And I think looking at the density part of it, that's the hard part I have with that. And not only that, but on 112th Street, like Mr. Hammer said, I mean, you're on 112, there's nowhere for walking. I mean, it's just very, very narrow shoulders, nothing's paved. And this isn't on you. I mean, this is a city issue because we have to address it because it is part of growth. And we want to have a safe community, people that be able to walk, trail connectivity. That's all a big focus of how we want to plan, and I'll use the term dictate our future, because we are in that position to make sure that we are planning for a safe future, because we are going to have growth and development. And if there was any way you could consider doing it in the current, scope, would be great. I understand where you're coming at. Maybe, I mean, I'm not gonna, your business, the neighbors that live out there, they bought their places because they love the rural. I'll take that country word out of Mr. Hammer's vocabulary and say rural, but it's messing with them. But we like this. That's why they're there. I mean, I'm in an R2 district. I've got 2 acres, and we love what we have out here. But to be able to put it in under the current guidelines, I would support that. But I don't support the increased density. So with that, if there was no other communication, if we could go for the motion, please, sir.
Comprehensive Master Plan Amendment. Motion to recommend, a motion to adopt a resolution recommending the adoption of an ordinance to amend the City of Franklin 2025 Comprehensive Master Plan to change the City of Franklin 2025 future land use map for property located at 9720 South 112th Street from business park and areas of natural resources to residential and areas of natural resources.
Is there a motion to approve? There is no motion to approve. Motion fails. You to communicate with Mr. Martinez for perhaps another kick at the cat.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item D.
Motion to deny.
I didn't think we did,
Denial.
because there was no motion. I thought it was, that's where it
Well,
ended.
no action's taken on it. then.
Correct.
We faced, Mayor, if I may.
Why don't we do this? We will move now for a motion then to deny. We'll make it official opposed to it failing.
So moved.
Second.
First and a second, all is in favor to deny?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion to deny moves forward. We'll move on to D as in David, citizen comment period. Citizens may comment upon the business matters items set forth in this meeting agenda, and there are 4. So anybody wishing to come up, this will be, thank you, Mr. Leon. I only saw 4 on my sheet, but it's, the 5th one is Saputo. You are correct, as always. And we will have people come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less regarding the 5 items listed on this agenda. I was silly, I didn't turn it over.
I can see 5 in Arabic. Hamsa.
Floor is now open, and I will be the timekeeper if anybody wishes to speak on anything. If not, we will move forward to the business matters.
Hello.
Yeah, I do.
We live in 8164 South Legend Drive, just around the corner over here. My name is Savannah Marchand, and this is my little sister, Lily. She just turned 19 years old on Monday, and she has lived in Franklin her entire life, and me as well. But Lily is not just a sister. She is also a daughter, a friend, and an essential part of our family and community. Lily teaches everyone around her, including her family, friends, and neighbors, invaluable lessons about belonging, acceptance, and diversity. Often individuals, like my sister, face barriers that isolate them from the community. They are overlooked, misunderstood, and often excluded. Community of Crocus is about creating a space where people with disabilities feel valued, where their differences are celebrated, and they are allowed to shine. Housing is not just about walls and roofs. It represents stability, dignity, and the opportunity to thrive. Everyone deserves a place where they can feel secure and be a part of the community. I challenge everyone here to open their hearts and minds to embracing a community where people like my sister are included. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, whatever. I don't care. Anyone else wishing to speak at this time? He told me that they can't clap. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Can we suspend the rules to allow?
Oh, I agree. Next thing you tell him is, talk about Christmas next, Jesse. And the Easter Bunny. Good evening, ma'am. Welcome.
My name is Patricia Przybelka.
Yeah.
My name is Patricia Przybelka. I'm at 3103 West Minnesota Avenue. My property butts up to where they want to build. I don't have a problem with them building there. I have a problem with them not wanting to pay taxes. I have a problem with they don't want to be licensed. Who's going to monitor this place? They're going to bring all these people in. 31st Street is a drag race. Every night we hear cars racing up and down that road. You're going to add more people. You've got the apartment complex across the street from where they want to build. You've got flooding in that land. There are so many issues there. Now, I just moved here a year ago. I moved from town of Norway. I lived out in a rural area. I see more wildlife in my backyard than I did in the town of Norway. I have deer, I have turkeys, I have coyotes, I have all kinds of birds. If they build, they're going to drive all those animals out of there. Where are they going to go? I understand that these adults need a place to stay, but I think we need to make sure that it's being monitored correctly and that they're being licensed and they're paying taxes. I have to pay taxes. You guys all have to pay taxes. They should have to pay taxes also. We're not for it. I don't have a problem with residential homes going in, but they got to be licensed. So somebody's monitoring. So they advertise it as low income. What kind of people are going to be coming in? It's just a lot of headaches that are going to be coming down that road. And that road isn't that long. And like I said, it's a constant racetrack. That's all I have to say. I'd rather see it not come in because I know some of the neighbors on that road have water issues because Northwestern Mutual. The lights, it's nice now, Northwestern Mutual turned off a bunch of their lights, so you don't have them glaring into our backyards anymore. But they said that they have to put all these kinds of lights up because it's a public place. But nobody's allowed to walk on the walking paths that they're going to put in. They're telling us all these great things they're going to do there, but the public is not allowed in to be a part of it except to go to their market and buy their stuff at their market. I just feel like it needs to be monitored more than what they're planning on having done. Plus, caregivers, they must have a magic wand because I work for clinics. I have an association with 5 different clinics. I'm constantly begging for caregivers to take care of our elderly. It's just gotten to be so hard to hire people, but they don't seem to think there's going to be a problem. So.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. Welcome.
Hi, I'm not sure. I do not live in the city of Franklin.
We'll just start, just your name and
Okay.
business address would be fine.
Sure. Grace Barr, and I work for the Franklin Public School District. So, and for Franklin High School. So 8222 South 51st Street. And I just wanted to mention I'm the 18 to 21-year-old teacher for Franklin Public Schools. I work with adults with disabilities. So first, I just want to thank you guys for the opportunity to speak today. As a special education teacher who specializes in transition to life after school, I've dedicated my career to supporting individuals with disabilities and advocating for their needs. I want to highlight the pressing need for supportive housing in not only Franklin's community, but also in Milwaukee County. I see year after year families struggling to find appropriate housing and housing that's adequate for their family members' needs. Every family deserves the peace of mind that comes with knowing their loved ones have a safe and supportive house, whether they have a disability or not. With the current housing options and wait list, many individuals with disabilities face significant barriers to finding safe and properly supportive homes. Supportive housing not only provides a stable living environment, but also fosters independence and a sense of belonging, which is essential for people with disabilities' overall well-being and quality of life. This is something that we strive to work on with Franklin Public Schools. We currently have for the past 3 years, a classroom apartment, which is located at Plumtree Apartments, 10355 Plumtree Circle, and we've had 0 problems since moving in. We've had 0 contact with EMS or police, and we've been, in my opinion, the best neighbors possible. Obviously, I'm a little biased that way. But inclusive housing options can empower individuals with disabilities to engage fully in their communities, something that we work on every single day. A community in which they grew up in and know well. For anyone who knows someone with a disability, learning a new space is pretty hard. So continuing that learning in their community is very essential. So by providing access to necessary resources and support services in which the community of Crocus has in their plans, we can ensure they have the tools to thrive just like any community member. We must prioritize inclusive housing solutions to address this pressing issue and support the diverse needs of our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Let's see here. Anyone else wishing to speak at this time? Seeing, okay. How about this? If we have more, because we're trying to move this along, if you are looking to speak after Ms. Runty, please, get ready to hop up right away. If not, we're going to close this and move on because we've got 5 items to discuss on this agenda. Good evening, Ms. Runty.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Shelley Runty, and I reside at 8235 West Coventry Drive. I see a lot of parents here with their children, and I imagine they're here because they want the best for their child to reach their full potential, just like any parent would want. Franklin Public Schools, as you heard, is a great supporter of inclusion and accessibility. In their 18 to 21-year-old program, and even prior to that in their early childhood program. My daughter Kayla would have been 20 this year. She would have been in that program. Her lifetime was different. Her plan, God's plan for her was different. In 2012, she passed away. And I imagine if she was here today, she would be here with me because she would benefit from the respite that Communities of Crocus is offering for their mission and vision. It is essential for families to have respite. It's essential for families to provide a home for their children, to make them contributing members of society. That's what any parent wants for their children. Kayla provided me a lens to look through, and I asked the Commission here today to look through a lens. Just like any parent has to have the ability to be flexible, to be agile, and to sometimes think outside the box. I asked the commission to have that view. I heard tonight from this podium a lot of things that are problems over in that area where they're looking to build. When we built Kayla's Playground, we heard very much the same thing. Wetlands. There was many opportunities of obstacles that were being thrown in our midst. Somehow, the Common Council thought outside the box and figured it out. And we built the playground in 2015, and there's families that come who have children with disabilities and don't have children with disabilities, or who are able-bodied. And if you really think about it, Kayla's Playground, to the 18 to 21-year-old program, to Communities of Crocus, it's a wide array that we can continue to foster and help these children and these families. So I stand before you now in full support of Communities of Crocus and the obstacles that come before you tonight, to think outside and solve and be agile and be problem solvers, and not just throwing all the obstacles in front of the people here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Kevin Foley. I live at 4656 West Hilltop Lane here in Franklin. I strongly support the proposal of the Community of Crocus Group. You, as public servants, if you get to the core of what your ultimate responsibility is, it's to maintain and enhance the quality of life here in the city of Franklin. And I think this project will meet that obligation. I have heard both in this room and at a public information session sponsored by the Community of Crocus at the public library, objections which basically amount to the wrong kind of people will be living there. If I had even private thoughts like that, the only person I would share them with would be my confessor in the confession booth. This is a project of considerable merit. It is well planned. And I'd like to point out that your own professional staff in the information packet that you have, that I read through at the library today, recommends approval. Your professional staff, many of them hold licenses which they need to practice their trade anywhere, not simply here in the city of Franklin. They've sat for demanding examinations to obtain those licenses, and in many instances, they have continuing education requirements that they have to meet to maintain those licenses. Absent really compelling and well-documented evidence, and not simply people's free-floating anxiety and undocumented fears, and I can understand the concept of change, potential change generating fears. But this is a project that deserves to be moved along to fruition. It is meeting a documented need that people who we classify as having a disability need this kind of service. It exists hardly anywhere in the state. Your decision will, I think, enhance the image of the city of Franklin. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Get right up next to it. Good evening and welcome.
Hello, my name is Carrie Exaros Marker, and I live at 4212 West Central Avenue, Franklin, Wisconsin, and my family has lived here since January of 2010. I have a young adult with special needs who is currently attending the 18 to 21 program with the Franklin District and doing wonderfully, I might add. I am in full support of the community of Crocus and their plans. As far as the community support and maybe fear that they have about what type of people are going to be living in that in this community and this new development right here, my family, my child, our other children, and your neighbors right here in Franklin will benefit from such a great community and such an opportunity. It is every parent's concern that we're not going to live forever. Our children can't live with us and we can't take care of them forever. Why not have a wonderful place right here in our community where they have grown up, where they have lived, and where they will continue to thrive? So I hope that you will continue to support this project. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, seeing no one else, we will close, we'll go in once, twice, close citizen comment period. Move on to item E as in Edward number 1. I will read it and then turn it over to Regulo. Tsunami Car Wash Special Use Site Plan request to allow for a new car wash on a vacant lot in the intersection of Lovers Lane Road and Whitnall Edge Road, 6449 South Whitnall Edge Road, tax key number 70589970003. Plan Commission held a public hearing for this special use request on August 22nd of this year. Mr. Martinez.
Yes, as you mentioned, Mayor, that this item has been presented to the Plan Commission and it was tabled. And the Plan Commission requested a traffic impact analysis to be prepared. The applicant submitted that analysis. It's in the meeting packet. City Development staff have no comments about the traffic impact analysis.
I'm sorry, Mr. Martinez, could you go a little closer? I'm not hearing.
Okay. Yeah. The applicant submitted the traffic impact analysis, and planning staff have no comments about that analysis. But however, the applicant's here. If you have additional questions about the traffic impact analysis, and the staff is recommending approval of the special use permit.
Okay, good. Yes, is the applicant here? Could one of you please come up here? Could a representative from the applicant pool? Oh, right here, ma'am.
Oh, up there.
Yeah, special treatment. And then if you wouldn't mind just saying your name and business address for the record and speak a little close into the microphone.
Yes, my name is Miranda Seals. Our business with the Redmond Company is at West 228 North 745 Westbound Drive in Waukesha, Wisconsin.
Excellent. I'll open up for questions from the commission at this time. Mr. Leon.
Mayor, I just ask the applicant, would you summarize the traffic impact analysis for the record?
Yes, the traffic impact analysis in summary says that there are major issues at that intersection already, and essentially there's going to be minimal to no impact positively on the existing conditions, but it's a bigger issue that needs to be addressed. And then I also have my traffic engineer here. So
Yeah, and maybe to the project engineer, and
Sure.
I'd like to state your name and address for the record.
Yep.
But just basically, I did look at it and I heard summary. This isn't going to make the traffic any worse in that area.
Correct, yes. John Bieberts from Traffic Analysis and Design in Cedar Brook, Wisconsin. We prepared the traffic impact study addressing this development. And yes, a quick summary. We did traffic counts out at that intersection, both on a weekday from 3 to 6 and on a Saturday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we also looked at DOT counts because those counts were done with Highway 100 under partial construction. We took a look at DOT historical counts that area and factored our counts up accordingly by 11% to accommodate that construction traffic. And we analyzed things based on that condition. Again, the peak weekday hour and the peak Saturday hour, which corresponds with the highest hours of traffic generation for our car wash. We also took a look at how much traffic would a car wash generate. Really, it depends on the time of year. When you think about it, car washes are the busiest during those March, April, timeframes type of thing. So we took a look at those months and we look at those peak hours to generate traffic for this development. In other words, we used volumes from Tommy's Car Wash, Coast to Coast, Mr. Car Wash's transaction data from other car washes in that area to figure out what this car wash could generate, assuming a worst case condition. Our analysis showed that currently there are some operation issues. If you want to turn left for Window Edge Road to go south on Highway 100, that left turn is difficult. We all know that. And with this development coming in, that left turn is not going to be made any easier, but it also will not be made much worse either. Because with this car wash, a lot of that traffic is what we call pass-by traffic. In other words, you're on your way to work, on your way home, you stop at a car wash, and you proceed on your way back. So a lot of that traffic is existing traffic that's already on the roadway system that may not be new traffic. In other words, very few people say, oh, you know what? I'm going to get a car wash today and come right back home. It's usually stop at a car wash on your way someplace else. So that was a base of what we did, and we assumed about 25% of that traffic would be called that pass-by traffic. So it's a low percentage. Our study is very conservative from that standpoint. It's kind of a worst case scenario. And the question is, if you want to turn left out of Whitnall Edge Road to go southbound on Highway 100, there are a couple options. You could wait there, like you do today. You could make a right turn, make a U-turn at the signalized intersection at College, which is legally acceptable. Or you could drive through the shopping center and exit at the signalized intersection at Speedway Drive is another option, which is also part of that development. So there are options to utilize to access, especially leaving the car wash. So with that, any questions or details or concerns?
Leon, you still have got the floor?
So most of the traffic would be turning right out of your car wash to go south is the expectation, right? Because traffic would already be coming to the south, pass by, or if not, what's the northbound impact? And I do know the area. I'm just looking at a summary of it because the concerns of the residents, the neighbors were here really focused on traffic coming in and out of there during that time. I think you've pretty clearly addressed to the south, so I think that's where you expect most of it. But just, if not, could you talk a little bit about traffic going north from?
Sure. Yep. And we assume about 50% of the traffic is northbound, about 50% is southbound as far as entering and exiting the car wash. The reason for that is it's based on the existing traffic patterns that are out there today during those peak hours. So yeah, for northbound traffic, it's pretty much right into this car wash, you exit right out, very simple movement. For southbound, it's left in, and then obviously left out. And left out, like I said before, you could either turn left out there at Window Edge or go to College, make a U-turn and come back down, or traverse through the shopping center to exit at Speedway Drive, which is a signalized intersection to turn left.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Mr. Haley?
I would just add the comment, and not to put words in your mouth, but I believe your report also suggests that one of the ways to ameliorate future problems is to put a separate entrance drive into the facility as shown.
Correct. Yes, exactly.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, just so our staff has reviewed this, and to quote you earlier, you are good with this.
Yes. I mean, we recommended approval at the previous meeting.
Right.
Now, with the traffic impact analysis, we also recommend approval.
I just want to reiterate that. Okay, thank you. And could you please read the motion?
A motion to recommend approval of a resolution imposing conditions and restrictions for the approval of a special use for Tsunami Car Wash facility located at 6449 South Window Edge Road, Tsunami Express Car Wash applicant.
So moved.
Second?
First and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome and good luck. Going on to E2, Communities of Crocus Special Use, an application for a special use for Communities of Crocus to allow for development of up to four 4-unit multifamily residential buildings, 16 units total, with services for autistic adults and related community buildings on property located at 0 South 31st Street. Tax key number 761-9992-002. The public hearing for this item was held on August 22nd, 2024. If there is one at max 2 members of Crocus that would like to come up here and come here because, oh, Marion?
Thank you.
You 2 and 3 together.
I would love to take E2 and 3 together. Is there anybody have an issue with that? But then we'll do that. Well done. Because I have a few questions too. So good evening and welcome.
Good evening.
So Marion, this is yours. Marion X, good evening and welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. So this item was tabled at the August meeting for a number of comments and questions from both the public and the commission. And so staff and the applicant have taken some time to do further review and produce some additional documentation in order to address some of those concerns. So I'm going to canvass some of the things that staff has reviewed, and then the applicants have their own feedback and have produced some drawings to help visualize the site and understand how their proposed development will proceed. But I want to just reiterate that at present, the review that's before you is for a special use for the lot, the northernmost lot of this property, which is currently zoned B4. This property does allow for multifamily residential development under the standards of our R8 multifamily zoning ordinance. And so the question before you with relationship to this lot is the density of the property. The second application and third application are a comprehensive master plan amendment and a rezoning of the 3 lots to the south of that property. So the discussion there is whether or not to change the allowable uses on the property. Currently, it allows for office uses or single-family residential uses at our highest single-family density. And so that's the scope of the discussion today. You will not be looking at a fully designed site plan. All of this is conceptual and subject to future approval as well. So let's talk about the applications. So the overall development is 4 lots in total. It'll be phased over time, but the special use is phase 1, that residential development. And so the applicants are seeking approval of the density as well as that mixture of uses that's proposed. So many of the medical uses that are part of their development, and especially the business uses, would be permitted uses in B4 zoning. So the special use is specific to the residential component of this and that mixture of uses. The subsequent developments would it be for apartments, and also townhome and duplex developments on the southern lots. So I'll get a little bit more into this in future, but there are multiple aspects to the development, and not all of it will be affordable housing, not all of it will be nonprofit uses. And so that is something that applicants can touch on a little bit more, but I do want to discuss the nonprofit status of the organization a bit. But let me just continue with this discussion. So okay, so the special use is for 4 4-unit homes. That's a gross density of 0.86 units per acre. The allowable density is much higher on the lot. And so the comprehensive master plan amendment would allow for a greater diversity of uses. The future land use of this site is just office. And so it's a limited scope of future uses. Any developer that wanted to come in and put in a business that isn't just an office would have to request a similar rezoning. And then the rezoning from R6 single family to B4 mixed use, it does allow that multifamily development type and also other business uses. So when we think about the use categorizations in terms of its relationship to the neighborhood and the future uses of the site, essentially this is adding value to the site. So the applicants did present a conceptual site plan at the previous meeting for phase 1, and I just want to remind folks what this looks like. So north is up here. These are 4 4-unit residential buildings. So they have shown some conceptual designs basically of what this would look like, but the density is allowable. And then these 2 structures to the south are a community building for the residents of the development, and another building for offices and other community services that would have office space, et cetera. So the future land use, as I mentioned earlier, currently mixed use. So the recommended future land use here would be mixed use as well. You can see that this area has that office designation, and it is the only area of the city that has that designation. So Office uses are allowed in all business classifications, so the greater diversity of uses is something that staff supports. So there was quite a lot of discussion at the previous meeting about a variety of issues, and so there were concerns expressed about well, they fell into several categories: possible impacts to natural resources in the floodplain, the movement and storage of water on the site, or stormwater designs, the safety of autistic adults and residents, and then commissioners also had concerns about environmental corridor, the location of easements, and other factors that might limit the developable area. So just, I mentioned this in my report, but I will note again that we obtained all of the easements from the Milwaukee County Register of Deeds. We had some general information about that prior to the concept design, but all of them have been incorporated into some of the exhibits that the applicant has provided. They have not altered the design in any effective way. So we can talk a little bit about natural resources. And one thing I want to emphasize here is that we do protect natural resources. Franklin actually has a more restrictive ordinance about this than many other communities, most other communities in Wisconsin. And it is something that we take very seriously and care about too in our ordinance, and something that I think the applicants have thought carefully about in their design. So the UDO protects woodland, water resources and their setbacks, and especially floodplain. There is protections under the current ordinance for floodplain, and then we also follow FEMA regulations regarding that and have recently adopted an updated ordinance with additional requirements in terms of analysis of floodplain impacts, et cetera. I don't need to go too far down that rabbit hole. But and then on the property is what's called Sewer Pack Environmental Corridor, which is an area that's designated by our regional planning agency as being of special significance in terms of natural resources, and something that they consider when they're evaluating developments such as this one. They also have some control over whether or not to extend utilities to those developments. So the Sewer Pack Environmental Corridor, the applicant has a little bit clearer of an exhibit about this, but this is the city's own mapping of it. This is something that's subject to a field delineation, meaning a biologist would have to go out there at some point and have said, here's where we think the boundaries of this are. There is green hatching here. It basically covers this area, none of which is part of the development area of the site proposed. So there are no impacts to the environmental corridor proposed under their concept design, and it is something that we would look at under a site plan. They're also not proposing impacts to floodplain. Let me see what order these are in. So this is the applicant's exhibit. They can touch on this as well, but they obtained updated data from Sewer Pack, and this green hatched area is the environmental corridor. FEMA floodplain is also something that we take very seriously, and I know there are a lot of concerns about how water works on the lot, both from neighbors along 31st Street and neighbors along 35th. The area in blue is the regulatory floodplain, meaning that any development that occurs within that area requires significant permitting, including an analysis of whether or not it would change the floodplain on the site and upstream. The applicant is not proposing impacts to the regulatory floodplain in their application. You can see that it is well within the environmental corridor and other natural resource features. So I do want to touch on a concern that the neighborhood is probably well aware of, is that some of that floodplain is within the city's right-of-way. And there are concerns about how 35th Street has been affected by the stream. This is a conversation that the city has taken into consideration. I think is important that we revisit in future, but it is not the applicant's responsibility to regulate or manage the floodplain in the right-of-way. So while I appreciate the concern, and we've had discussions about that with staff, it's something that for this application, is not the applicant's responsibility. I want to be very clear about that. So I also want to note, as we discussed earlier, that Franklin takes natural resources very seriously, and future development does require conservation easements. Those are required at a future development step, which is the site plan review. So when they submit for a site plan, the ordinance will also require the submittal of conservation easements that take into account the real design of the site, what they actually plan to build based on the engineering design, where they need to put stormwater, et cetera. So that at this conceptual step, it's neither required nor appropriate to require those. So we are not requiring them now, but they will be required in future. The stormwater design, the applicant has provided a supplemental stormwater concept with their materials, which staff reviewed with them on September 18th. We have some folks from engineering who can provide additional comment to that, but generally speaking, their comment was that it does generally demonstrate that the site will be able to comply with the city's stormwater requirements. And so that's not my area of expertise, but we do have the expert here if needed. So the applicant also contacted MMSD, who is the regional authority on this matter about this, and they're aware of the project, and they have had some preliminary discussions about how to manage stormwater on the site in relationship to those conservation stormwater ponds that are present on the site. There was a question about owner notification. That is something that is required for all applications, and I want to make sure that it's clear to the group. Northwestern Mutual is aware of the project. They have signed the application forms for this and are aware of the proposal, and staff doesn't have any concerns about that. Okay. So there were a few other comments during the previous public comment period and this evening that I want to address as an issue of fair housing. This development is explicitly for people with intellectual disabilities. And while the services that will be provided to them are part of the discussion tonight, the decision about whether or not someone with IDDs should be your neighbor is not something the commission can consider in land use decisions. I want to be very clear about that. It is not an appropriate point to be bringing up here and subjects this commission to fair housing concerns. I also want to address the issue about nonprofit status. While there are reasonable concerns about that in terms of the broader tax base, et cetera, it's not something that the zoning and land use takes into consideration. So there are a variety of corporate statuses that businesses operate under in the city, and we do not evaluate that in the zoning when we conduct a zoning compliance or when we do a special use application. So there are some questions about what that looks like, and I think that's fair to talk about, but it is not a land use decision. And with regard to the questions about licenses and other qualifications, while I think some of those questions could be appropriate under the scope of the special use for the medical services within this development, I want to reiterate the fair housing point. And also that there are licenses and other qualifications that the applicant is well aware of, and they are not part of the land use review and development. They're regulated by the state. We have our own health department, and all of those things will be required as part of the normal approval process for this application. So there are future applications that must be considered for this. We've talked about the site plan. There will be a future special use that would be required for potential multifamily development under the current ordinance. And all of those things come as the applicants proceed with their design and their thought process about how they want to execute this project. But I want to defer to my colleagues in the City Hall about how to evaluate some of those. So there's planning review that occurs by the inspection services department when we're looking at buildings. The building code must be met. Engineering evaluates the stormwater. All of those steps must be conformed to. And I think sometimes that gets lost because this commission looks at the site plan design and sort of thinks about how the land use is proceeding and how the site is configured. But a lot of the technical details of what is actually going into the final development is not getting ignored just because it's not in front of you. So I want to assuage some of the fears that have been presented here and also counter them with a little bit of reason. So I've provided resolutions for this, and again, we'll reiterate that I am recommending approval of this development, and then the applicants have their own presentation if it pleases the commission.
Thank you. So, ladies, welcome. And in the respective time, if you just please state your name and business address one at a time, and then I think we'll go with perhaps the Plan Commission's already been down this road a few times, but you could make, if you need to address some of those. I think Marion did an excellent job explaining it, and then we can then open it up to the commission, and if they have questions that they oppose to, going into the entire building, which we've been down this road already. So if you just please introduce yourselves.
Amy Hansel with Communities of Crocus. The address for the business mailing address is P.O. Box 580165, Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin 53158.
And I am Patricia Chin, Civil Engineering Associate with HGA. The business address is 333 East Erie Street, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Thank you very much. So I know you've got a number of slides. If you wish to move through them, if not, we can maybe get some questions out here first. I just think Marion pretty much broke everything down, unless you want to add something simply to what she said via slide, opposed to reiterating everything she went over. But I know I've got a few questions, but I'm just trying to move it along in the interest of time.
I think I'll pass to, she has a few things.
I mean, I think I'll pass as well. Like you said, Marion really has covered a lot of it, but I would like to just state that this presentation is available for us to refer back to address any of your questions.
Okay, why don't we open up to commission members? Thank you. Mr. Haley, you first.
Thank you. It was I at the last meeting that had a lot of concerns and questions, and I want to sincerely thank you because you took them seriously. I've had a chance to review the revised narrative, look at the plans you did. You've answered all my questions and concerns. In particular, I appreciate you reaching out and meeting with MMSD to get clarity on what they needed. And I think that was the right thing to do. And now you have the guidance that I was suggesting. You know how to move forward. That said, I have one question and two comments. The question is for staff. The second parcel from the north, apparently a couple of these documents are showing a parcel on the east side of 31st Street that seems to be tied to that. And all I need to know is are any of the actions we're taking tonight, will they affect that parcel?
Yes, that lot is actually part of one of the lots. It extends through. So when 31st Street was put in, it split the lot that has St. James Church on it and that lot. And so there's a little remnant over there that is part of the development proposal this evening in terms of the uses. There's no design proposed for it.
And my concern is that we're modifying the comprehensive plan for something that's not really involved in this. So is there a way to carve that off? What we're being asked to approve makes sense on the other parcels, but there's this outlier out there.
Yeah, actually, so I would have to look at the future land use map, but it would be aligning it with that. So it would become mixed use, which is what I believe the current future land use for that corridor is. So it's making it all one thing.
We just don't want to do something that we have to later undo.
Right.
Okay. My comments to the applicant too. MMSD asked that you come back and show them drawings at 30%. You're getting closer and closer to that. Please beyond that. You know, it's better to talk with them sooner rather than later because they'll be able to give you the input that they need. The other concern I have is your north-south road clearly crosses wetland and buffers. I'm going to suggest, and there's a process to go through with that. Be creative with the design and see if there's ways that you can minimize those impacts, because ultimately you're going to have to go through the NRPP process and justify or mitigate those. And if you need to do some mitigation, it looks like where the old road was might be a good place to do some.
Mm-hmm.
With that, I support the project. I mean, I think it's a great addition to our community, as I did last time, but I had questions.
Thank you, sir.
Answered. Thank you.
Alderman Day?
Thank you, and thank you, Marion. That was an excellent presentation from your side, so a lot of questions I think were answered. There were a couple of things that were brought up this evening that as far as community uses, and I know that it's in this packet here, but when we're looking at phase one and the center, in the packet it discusses that there are potential avenues for community uses of certain parts of that building. Is that still correct?
That is great. That is correct.
Yes,
You mean greater community, correct?
So
Yes.
the community will have access to certain parts of this development for various meetings or that type of thing. It's not hands-off to everybody that doesn't live there, correct?
No, it's not. Actually, the center will be open to the greater community and the supportive housing hub and some of the walking paths.
Excellent, thank you. And then my other question is, if you know right now, if not, I'm just curious, for the other phases, for the apartments and townhouses, right now, what is your estimate or guess of how many units you're thinking would be in those spaces eventually?
Yes, with the apartments, the estimate is 34 apartments, 2 stories, and the homes, we're estimating 20 to 22 of those homes.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, the last thing was the description about why you chose this particular parcel. You went into it a little bit in your narrative, and it talks about how you looked at several communities in southeastern Wisconsin, in Milwaukee County, and in some of our southern counties, and you picked this one specifically for the green space. So again, to assuage those fears that, you know, there's going to be a lot of, you know, concrete jungle and impervious surface and, you know, wetland destruction and wildlife destruction. I don't think that's the case here from all of our conversations that we had, from looking at your maps there, and from the purpose of the project. That would be counterintuitive to why you chose the site. So with that, I yield.
Mr. Leon.
Thank you, Mayor. And I do have quite a bit to say. I'll preface all of it with, since our last meeting, I intended to follow Commissioner Haley's lead on this, and he has already said that the concerns he had about the flooding primarily, right, and other environmental impacts have been addressed. I agree. I believe Ms. X laid that out. The packet contained a lot more information than it did on August 22nd. I commit to you, as a member of this commission, as long as I'm a member of the commission, I will have questions like that and how it impacts everyone. So it doesn't mean there's not trust in the process, trust in the different departments and staff, but it's our responsibility as members of this commission to ask these types of questions and have them be able to be answered before projects like this move forward. So at this point, I do support it. I don't have any questions for the applicant. I do want to address some of the things that members of the public, neighbors, had to say. I'll preface that with, I have adult relatives and high school age relatives with what I prefer to term as different abilities, who have lived in communities like this and appreciate the importance of it and understand all of the rationale that was laid out for it. I especially want to give credit to Shelley and Lily, who came up and gave a very compelling presentation on the need for this type of facility. The real question in my mind, up until Ms. X's presentation and Commissioner Haley's comments, was the location and the impact on quality of life for neighbors. And then to Ms. Runty specifically, although we've never met, and also to the teacher who spoke earlier, my kids go to Ben Franklin. My kids have sat on the buddy bench with Kayla's name on it. My kids frequently go to Kayla's playground, at least when they were a little bit younger, and played there. It's a great location for it. There are concerns. There are still issues there. We know that, right? But there was outside the box thinking. I think I wasn't involved with the Plan Commission when it went through, but there were other locations proposed. And the outside the box thinking for any project doesn't exclusively fall upon the Plan Commission, right, or the city. It's also the applicant. And I think that happened here. And from all reports, it happened with Kayla's playground. But I do also want to give thanks and credit to Ms. Przybylski, who spoke. And while I don't necessarily agree with all of her concerns, it's important for those who dissent on a project, even in a crowd where there are lots of people who support it, to address their concerns so that they may be considered and mitigated to the best of the ability of the applicant and the city. I am not at all concerned with the ability of the applicant to care for and protect the residents as well as neighbors in that area. They're professionals, and they will do that well. I am also not concerned with tax implications of that, and I know during the last meeting we even discussed the opportunity for a pilot. That's really not my concern. My concern was whether or not this project would create additional flooding and environmental impact. And again, this packet and Ms. X's presentation answered that an MMSD and the applicant has pretty strongly said that it won't. So I just, want to be clear that while a commission for the Fair Housing Act perhaps can't consider some of the things that Ms. X passionately discuss, neighbors can speak about whatever concerns them, right? And they should be able to, and should be encouraged to come out to meetings like this and also to talk with the applicant so that the concerns can either be addressed and maybe assuaged, I think that's the right word, or mitigated. So thank you again, Ms. Przybylski, for discussing that. But I think it's a good project. I would ask that with this type of project going forward, that we receive this kind of information the first time around. I think had we had this level of detail on August 22nd, and I know there are other concerns, right? But I think that it would have moved forward at that point. I'm glad that it is now. So with that, I think the Director of Administration might have some comments. So I yield.
Madam Director of Administration.
Thank you. I did want to address Patrick Leone's and also, I should say, Commissioner Leone and Commissioner Haley. They had some concerns, obviously, in the last meeting that we had on Crocus, and Commissioner Haley was kind enough to talk with me about some of those concerns. And what really came out of it is the process. We had concept reviews coming to council rather than plan commission at some point that had gotten a little mixed up. And I wanted to reassure our plan commissioners that we have straightened that out, and we will have all concept reviews come before this body before anything goes any further or before we have it be heard by the council. Just wanted to.
Yes, and thank you, Madam Director of Administration. Yeah, I believe we talked about that at the last meeting, how the process would be improved so that we can have those questions addressed earlier. So point taken. Thank you.
Yeah, it's obviously going to lend itself to a better process for everybody.
You yield?
I have a letter that I can read. I can read it whenever you want. Doesn't matter.
Okay, why don't we do that last?
Okay.
Because I've got a few things I want to bring this all together so we can move forward. So the ma'am that spoke earlier up here about speed concerns, please report that to the chief of police. If not, call my desk tomorrow, leave me a voicemail, and I'll call you back, because we have to address that. That's first concern. Second concern, I think you addressed that being able to, once these walking trails are up, this is not a private gated community. This would be open for residents to be able to walk these pathways. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. We're looking at the pathways that are outside of the actual where everything's being built. But we do have to also confer with attorneys, because if we make it public, we do have to think about the effects of that.
Right. I think NML had kind of the same concerns and same areas which community could take advantage of that. But that would be a nice addition to welcome neighbors, because anything that gets people out there walking and active is a great thing. I guess, and we talked about, just briefly mentioned a pilot, that's payment in lieu of taxes. However, you did talk about areas that will be subject to taxing. So this project is not a zero tax project. There will be, and I'm not sure how aggressive that timeline is, but there will be, with the additions coming forth, they would be subject to taxing as in any other development. And that was that part of it. And we addressed the water very well. That was a big issue that people had chimed in on me, and I discussed that with Madam Director of Administration. We always say that Director of Administration, the whole title, because if not, it's DOA. We don't want to be. We don't want to be that. So we don't want to say that. So if there's anything else, nothing else, we'd like to please read the motion for item number 2. Well.
Item number 2 is the special use. A motion to recommend approval of a resolution imposing conditions and restrictions for the approval of a special use for a 16-unit supportive housing development, resident community center, and community hub facility upon property located at 0 South 31st Street by Amy Hensel, Community of Crocus, applicant, Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance property owner.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Now, 1 point for further discussion. If you would please read that correspondence from the Milwaukee County Executive, Madam Director of Administration.
Thank you. This is a letter from Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley and Milwaukee County Supervisor District 17 Steve Taylor. Dear Plan Commission members, on behalf of the Milwaukee County Executive's Office and County Supervisor Steve Taylor, we would like to reiterate our enthusiastic support for the communities of Crocus development located at 7521 South 31st Street in Franklin. Milwaukee County has invested $2.5 million of American Rescue Plan Act funds towards this development. Milwaukee County views housing as a main social determinant of health, and this project is especially relevant to the mission of the Department of Health and Human Services due to the development of serving individuals with disabilities. It is the continued hope of Milwaukee County that this project can move forward. Thank you for your partnership with the Milwaukee County. Sincerely, David Crowley, Milwaukee County Executive, Stephen F. Taylor, Milwaukee County Supervisor, District 17.
Well done. We've got a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Would you like to now transition to item 3 for the motion?
Correct. Comprehensive Master Plan Amendment. A motion to adopt a resolution recommending the adoption of an ordinance to amend the City of Franklin 2025 Comprehensive Master Plan to change the City of Franklin 2025 future land use map for 3 properties generally located on the east side of South 31st Street, addressed at 7521 South 31st Street, and 0 South 31st Street, from office use and areas of natural resource use to mixed use and area of natural resource use.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Well done.
Another motion.
Mr. Martinez.
There's one more motion.
Yep.
Rezoning. A motion to recommend adoption of an ordinance to amend the Unified Development Ordinance zoning map to rezone 3 properties located on the east side of South 31st Street, addressed as 7521 South 31st Street and 0 South 35th Street and 0 South 31st Street to B4 South 27th Street mixed-use business district.
So moved.
Second.
First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Now we're good. Thank you. Number 4, item E as in Edward 4, Loomis and Ryan Inc. Special Use Amendment request to remove condition of approval requiring installation of a trail or sidewalk for property located at 9524 South Sophia Court, number 89, 9054000. That, for those paying attention, is the tax key number. The Plan Commission held a public hearing for this request on October 3rd, 2024. We're trying.
Mayor,
Hold on.
may I propose?
I know, hold on. We're okay. Please, thank you. Excellent. Thank you very much. We're getting there. We're getting there. Mr. Leone, you have, what? We can roll through that. We can be done really quick.
Fine, I won't.
We'll get really quick here. Mr. Martinez.
Thank you.
The door, though.
I know, we're getting there too. Everybody breathe for a second. Kelly, can you please handle that open door because, oh boy, don't lock it. We only got one key.
But 10 pointers?
10, I did, because they were only $10 a piece. They're phenomenal. Don't leave with that. Want you, because you gave me this thing from the dollar store.
You said you trusted him, that you didn't need collateral, and now
Well, I'm double thinking it because he likes that.
The tiny pointing.
Because he really likes that.
Good deal.
Yeah, for you, it's a good deal. For you, it's a great deal. All right, Mr. Martinez, you've got the floor, sir.
Thank you. This request was presented at the last Plan Commission meeting. Just to recap, so the request is to remove the condition that requires the installation of a sidewalk or trail in this area. Okay. So the motion of the Plan Commission was to refer back to staff, and if the staff agrees to with the design presented by the applicant, the application will move to Common Council. If staff have any comments, may refer the application back to the Plan Commission. So this is the plan that was presented by the applicant. I'll go to has more detail. Okay. Okay. So the area in question is here that requires the installation of the sidewalk or trail, and this is a more detailed plan. So what the applicant is proposing is a 5-foot sidewalk here, this area, and then it will go to a 10-foot sidewalk. Okay. So what the plan recommend, the Ryan Creek Trail Master Plan, was a 10-foot sidewalk or trail, but the applicant cannot meet that because this area here has a stormwater management pond. It's got kind of grade change here, so it's not possible for the applicant to provide the 10-foot trail for the entire segment here. So the applicants accommodate the 10-foot section here and then the 5-foot sidewalk. So because of that difficulty of the stormwater management location there, and because the applicant has worked previously with former engineering staff, then staff recommend approval of the design presented by the applicant with an additional condition that will state as follows. The applicant must record the proposed sidewalk easement depicted on the plan sheet, the 15 dated April 9, 2024. So that is an easement area that is approximately here. We met with the applicant, me and Mike, this afternoon, kind of to discuss this condition, and the applicant agreed with the condition.
Excellent. So just to briefly recap, so planning staff, engineering staff, and the applicant met today at 3 p.m. And you've come to the conclusion after everything you've discussed that staff supports this. Is that correct?
Yes.
By engineering,
Yes.
Mr. Poulos, yes?
Yes.
And Mr. Martinez, yes?
Correct. yeah.
Okay, open up now to any questions, concerns from the commission. Nothing, is there, could you please read the motion, sir?
A motion to recommend approval of a resolution to amend resolution number 7873, imposing conditions and restrictions for the approval of a special use for a condominium complex development use upon property located at 9524 South Sophia Court, with the addition of the condition recommended by staff that I read before.
Excellent.
So moved.
Second.
First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Uh-oh. Hold on. Everybody stop.
Roll call.
We're going to have to go to a roll call vote.
Commissioner Haley,
No.
City Engineer Paulos,
Yes.
Alderwoman Day,
Aye.
Commissioner Leon,
Well, a vote aye. I do want to hear Commissioner Haley's comments on the reason for no. I don't know if we had the discussion on the motion, but I would have liked to understand why, even though staff supports this now based on their meeting, why he opposes. I don't know how we do that.
Well, we'll get to that after I vote. I vote aye, okay? And so now motion passes. However,
No,
why?
you need
It's
4
four.
votes.
Well, did you not hear the city engineer vote yes?
City engineer is not an appointed city engineer or assistant engineer per the code.
Even though he's been appointed by the council to represent?
Not as for the public office.
Well, so I guess, why don't we, so if we're voting 3-1 and we needed 4, so at this point, the motion fails. Would you do a reconsideration with conditions, Mr. Haley?
Certainly.
Mr. Haley?
My concerns as it is, again, we've got something that technically works, but the 5-foot section, then going to a 10-foot section makes no sense. It's all being constructed in the city street right-of-way. So the only issue here is exactly where it gets put and who pays for it. Developer is committed to paying for it. That was part of the approval process. And somebody needs to explain to me why that we need a 5-foot section in there that transitions to a 6. Do it all in 10. Do it right. In the right-of-way. The right-of-way is the heavy dash line.
Well, what the applicant explained to me, Mike, is the grading here that is required for the stormwater management pond.
If the engineer could please chime in on this.
The reason for the narrow path through there for the 5-foot wide sidewalk, if you will, is because the grading concerns from the stormwater management pond right there. There is no physical room to squeeze a 10-foot wide pathway. Therefore, I went with a 5-foot walk for that stretch.
Mr. Haley?
Well, I'm not going to argue with you, but I'm going to argue with you. Go to the other drawing. It's all in the city street right-of-way.
Is there another drawing that
And
you can show?
I was there, I visited the site, I'm aware of the topography change there, but that doesn't mean that it can't be fit through there. Maybe a little piece of retaining wall, push it 5 feet streetward. It's being done to the east, right? I mean, if you look at the south line of the proposed 5-footer, that's in the right-of-way, and it goes out to the street 5 feet. Take it out to the street 10 feet, just like it is to the east of there.
Mr. City Attorney?
So it appears to me that there is a portion of the 5-foot trail that is not in the right-of-way. It goes south, correct? Southwest.
That's the area that the applicant is proposing to be a sidewalk easement.
Right, and as soon as it gets to the right-of-way, that's when it becomes 10 feet, correct?
This is the right-of-way line, heavy dash line right here. Yes, there is a piece here,
Okay.
but that's because they choose to flare it in to meet this sidewalk. But this is all in the right-of-way. That's 10 feet, all in the
Okay,
right-of-way.
so the
Here's 5
question
feet.
is, why
can't we put an
why
extra
is the
5 feet there?
5 foot in the right-of-way not expandable to 10 feet? The question to engineering and planning.
Either engineering or planning, please chime in. Engineering?
The way I understand it is, it doesn't show it clearly, but the applicant claims there's grading issues to make that 10-foot path work in that area. The other thing I'm going off is there's apparently an understanding with the past engineering departments that this was acceptable with the previous assistant city engineer.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, good. So, yes, so prior engineering staff and management were okay with this and they recommended approval. And Mr. Martinez, you all talked today. So I'm not sure where this is going to go. But is there Mr. City Engineer, then Mr. Haley? You're good for now?
I'm
Okay,
yes.
Mr. Attorney?
Is staff or Engineering aware of any grading issue in the public right-of-way? It's a public right-of-way. Why would there be a grading issue?
I think there'd be a grading issue. Please feel free to jump in here at any time, because it's a 10-foot path. That's why there's an issue. It's a 10-foot, it's too big.
Can you pull up the previous drawing that shows the grading plan? That shows it better somewhat. It's kind of a angled out view, but that kind of shows you the stormwater pond and the grading's trying to match with the roadway.
Could you use the pointer, please? Who's ever got it? Oh, not that one. Where's the good pointer? Don't try to hand me this terrible one. Tries to give me this dollar store thing.
So the issue is the grading work associated with the stormwater pond encroaches the right-of-way area. We're trying to, you can see the contours right here, pretty tight, pretty steep slope. Trying to fit a 10-foot wide pathway through here is going to be very difficult versus barely squeezing a 5-foot wide sidewalk through this rather tough, steep area through this area here. That's the reason for it.
Mr. Haley?
Well, I can only state that the applicant, who currently isn't here, knew the day we approved this project that he was required to put a bike trail through there. He's now coming to us after the fact, looking for some relief, and I'm guessing that it's primary fiscal, but they could have easily adjusted the detention basin in shape or location, put in a small retaining wall. It's like we got the whole project done now, and, oh, we needed a bike trail? We made it clear, council made it clear, that was a requirement of approval. And for the life of me, I can't understand why they can't make it work.
Well, in the applicant's defense, he contacted me at 5:30 PM today and said that he had met with planning and engineering and that he felt it was confident that it was going to move through without problem, and that he asked me if he thinks he should show tonight to the meeting. And I said, well, after speaking with planning and engineering, that they were supporting of it, I said, I don't think you need to be here. So he took that advice. So I do not want to see them get hammered publicly, because he thought, as well as I thought, that this was going to be approved. Alderwoman Day.
Okay, now I'm a little bit confused. So if prior staff was okay with the plan that's being presented to us this evening, then why was the applicant prior to this asking for an exception to take the whole thing out? I'm confused about that.
Because that condition is in the resolution set by the council, so only the
Right.
council is authorized to remove that condition.
Right, I understand that, but if he had some sort of approval that we may or may not be able to actually validate at this particular moment, unfortunately, why was he trying to remove putting in a pathway at all?
Money.
Well,
But I guess, and then my follow-up with that would be, is this exactly what he was proposing at the meeting 2 weeks ago? Because 2 weeks ago, it made, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm the one who made the motion to kind of put this in place. Otherwise, I think at that particular time, I think it would have been denied outright to have the exception. So my understanding was they had a plan based on the right-of-way that they could do the 10-foot. But then what was presented here is not that. It's 5 foot, then 10 foot. So I guess I'm now confused about what was presented to us 2 weeks ago when it was clearly stated by the applicant, which I understand he's not here to refute this, but it was stated that they had a plan and that the easement was big enough to be able to do what was asked. So that's why I'm confused. I mean, the part of the motion was if city staff was amicable to whatever resolution came up, that's what it would be. But I'm now a little bit confused about why we're not doing the 10 feet when it was presented 2 weeks ago that they had a plan that could do that.
Mr. Martinez, I don't believe that they had a plan that could provide a 10-foot pathway. I think that was the entire holdup with this.
So this plan was submitted after the meeting. However, when you look at the plan date, it's dated April, but it was not part of the previous packet. So the applicant submitted this plan kind of because that was the motion of the commission, that the applicant submits the proposal for placement of the trail. Then the applicant submitted the plan for engineering and planning review, and then when I look at the plan, I said it needs to go to the plan commission because if not, the 10-foot wide. But then we have the meeting today with the applicant. The applicant explained why he cannot meet that 10-foot wide sidewalk because of the grading that was explained. That's why now staff recommends approval.
Are you yielding, Alderwoman?
Yeah.
Mr. Leon?
Just confused.
I'll yield to the city attorney. He's got his hand as
Mr. City Attorney?
So this is a compromise by planning staff, correct?
Compromise? What do you mean?
Last meeting, it was 10 feet.
No. The applicant was requesting to remove the condition.
Right,
To not
but it
have
was
a
10 feet
trail.
when the removal was correct, requested, wasn't it?
No, 10 feet is the recommendation of the plan.
I know that. What was before the plan commission the last time it was here? 10 feet or that 5 foot?
To not have the trail. Yeah,
So the compromise
What
is
was
fine.
on the, don't have it at all? Was there?
correct. Don't have it at all.
There was no trail there at all?
For the previous meeting, yeah.
Okay, so this is a compromise.
Compromise, 5 feet.
Now it's submitted this plan with 5 feet, 10 feet.
It's a compromise.
Yeah.
Get it. Mr. Engineer?
One thing to keep in mind too is this path enters the subdivision. It does transition to a 5-foot wide walk throughout the subdivision. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it crosses with an easement here eventually. Is that what that line work there is, an easement?
Correct.
So there is going to be a transition point somewhere going from 10 to 5 feet once you enter the actual subdivision. It won't be 10 feet throughout. It's got to transition somewhere.
Mr. Haley?
That's the existing sidewalk, and it's 5 feet.
And,
Yeah.
and if I might, the intention is to connect to that diagonal. That's the proposed bike trail, 10 foot in asphalt. And that connection would happen right here on this little corner of their property and the easement. The development across the street has already constructed an at-grade crossing that comes to this point. The idea is to get people here. And all we're trying to do is make a connection from here to points east. At the last meeting, the applicant, if I'm not mistaken, told us that they had already granted an easement to the city that would accommodate a plan that he and the engineer had worked out, and that that's what they were going to bring to you. And what I'm seeing is they came back with nothing, and we found a compromise, which can work.
5 feet,
But
yeah.
yeah, but the point is, that's not what trails are supposed to be. Okay, there's going to be state and federal grant money in the construction of this trail. There's codes and standards. 10 feet is what they're looking for. It's what the city requires. So all I'm saying is there is a way to do it. It's a little bit different. You extend the 5 foot right on out, and you're already going to have all of this pavement in here because you've got a ramp here, and you make this. And if you actually look, this is where the slope is less steep. Here, where it's gone down, where it's gone out to 10 feet is where we've actually got the steeper slopes. So I'm just not believing that it's not doable.
Well, I think what was doable today was 5 feet. I think that's what it is. So, Mr. City Attorney.
Mr. Martinez, that picture on the screen is of the north side of the old Ryan Road, correct?
Hold on. This one?
Yes.
This one is the south side.
Southwest.
So that sidewalk, that's not the 116th Street connection. All right.
Internal sidewalk.
Just want to make an additional comment to Commissioner Haley about the connection to the trail. There is an additional connection here to the trail that is through an easement here.
I don't understand why, but that's okay. More is better.
Well, at this point, the motion fails, and we will move on to council with a failed motion. Staff supports, Planning Commission didn't. Right? Okay, item 5, Saputo Cheese USA Inc., site plan amendment, request to allow for changes from the approved site plan, including alterations to building design and dimensions, parking, and inclusion of additional accessory structures. The building is located in Plan Development District PDD 39, the mixed-use business park, at 2895 West Oakwood Road, tax key number 951-9994-003. Mary Nex.
Thank you, Mayor. So this site plan amendment request is due to an inspection of the site prior to the final occupancy permits for the building. So planning staff inspected the site on May 10th, 2024, and noted changes to the approved site plan that necessitate your review and approval before planning staff can sign off on the occupancy permit. So I want to emphasize that the applicant, all of these changes do meet the requirements of the zoning, but I'm just going to briefly canvass them in case there are questions about them. So the previous site plan included 459 parking spaces. There are now 481. They still are providing the appropriate number of ADA spaces. The striping and organization has changed. So this area, the facades have switched around. So basically they swapped these two facades and they reorganized the parking as a result of that. So this was the original approval. And then this is the current site plan that was constructed. So there were changes primarily to this office area, and then the industrial parts of the building are a little bit bigger of a footprint than was approved. So the overall building is now 322,460 square feet. And then there was also an additional driveway that was placed as a connection to Oakwood. There are no new impacts to natural resources. This commission did grant a number of waivers to design standards to this development when it originally came before you in 2022, like a lot of waivers. But the development still conforms with those waivers in general. So we can take a look at the difference in the facades quickly for the office area where I think it's the most change has occurred. So there are canopies here which have been revised, and then they sort of switched around where the doors were. So this is what it looks like now. This is facing Oakwood. The primary entrance is here. There is a seating area for staff here. And they've reorganized the glazing, and then the canopies are not one single line across the windows, but there are new canopies above the fenestration, the windows. So staff is recommending approval, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Questions from the commission? Excellent. Is there a motion?
A motion to adopt a resolution approving a site plan amendment for a consumer food product converting facility located at 2895 West Oakwood Road, Saputo Cheese USA, applicant and property owner.
Move to approve.
Well done. Is there a second?
Second.
First and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
First and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries.